had an excellent career over these last decade or so, from Brownsville in Brooklyn.
You think of what he achieved after that defeat to Dmitry Pirog and what he went through with the cancer, etc., the rehabilitation and everything that he had to go through, and then to get to the top and fight the best. I mean, what a tremendous story. I mean, if ever there's a correct nickname for a fighter, his is certainly that, the Miracle Man. Yeah. A great personality, a great talker, seen it all before. I mean, how many of these must he have done? You know, he just, it's all in the day's work for Daniel Jacobs. I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how much he has left. I'm looking forward to seeing how much the crowd will play a part being against him. You know, predominantly, obviously, going to be John Ryder supporters there. He wouldn't have experienced that too many times. No. Obviously, against Canelo, he would have, but for the Brooklyn Center, etc., he had the fans predominantly on his side. It's going to be a different experience for him, and with that, the desire, how much is left. I think someone of his stature and experience, I don't feel he would have continued if he didn't feel, you know, he had more big fights in him. So I expect, and John expects, a very, very good Daniel Jacobs Saturday night.
Well, I guess you know where the motivation lies, because he's made a lot of money. I mean, the Golovkin and the Canelo fights, obviously off the back of those victories. He's beaten about 2015, 2016, had Sergio Mora, beat Peter Quillin as well in New York. I think that kind of set the stage for the Triple G fight in 2017, a point where Golovkin really was at the peak of his powers. And well, listen, people have got differing opinions on that fight. I personally got to the end of that fight. I haven't watched it back or rescored, but my instinct was he'd done enough for the draw. I couldn't see a conclusive way that Golovkin had won that fight. It was a bit of a switch hit masterclass in many ways. He was constantly changing stances. He likes a pressure fighter that comes forwards, and he's very, very calm amidst the storm. I mean, you watch him against Golovkin and Alvarez, never looks out of his depth at all. He was beaten, he was slightly better by Alvarez than he was by Golovkin, but certainly not outclassed against, well, probably the two best middleweights in the world since Darren Barker, I would say.
Flipping it. I mean, there's no bigger compliment.
I can see you looking at me going, where's this going?
But yeah, two of the best middleweights of all time. Yeah. You say, you know,
very good
they've been there and put in a tremendous display. I think the way he switches from orthodox to southpaw and vice versa, it's so subtle you hardly see it, and that's a sign of a very good fighter when you don't see that change of stance. Now, I think John needs to be careful when Jacobs he's fighting out the southpaw stance and lets a really good left hand go. We see it against Canelo for a lovely, lovely shot, and it'd be a good shot against John. So John's going to have to be, you know, wary of that. But yeah, it's an honour to see this man on these shores fighting at our venues.
And in that Canelo fight, there was that £10 rehydration clause that Canelo would put in because he knows that Jacobs kind of needs to rehydrate to the fullest as much as he can. And I mean, just standing there, I know there's a slight platform there, but he's a very, very big guy to be making middleweight all these years. Surprised, it's the first time I've actually seen him in person, and very, very big guy. And he came in after meeting the 160-pound limit on the Friday. The next morning had to be, well, essentially 10 pounds, within 10 pounds of the weight he weighed in on the Friday, but he came in 13.6 pound over. Cost him $250,000 every pound he was over, and he was 3.6 pound over, so nearly $1 million in fines. But he knew he was weighing that, and he thought, I'm going to essentially waive that fine for the opportunity to be as fresh and as full as I can in the ring. But I think making 168 now, and the height that he is, you can fully expect him to be 180 pounds in the ring on Saturday night. But easy. I guess that's where John Ryder's experience against Callum Smith, having been in a true giant at super middleweight, will come in handy, knowing that he can close that gap, knowing that, you know, those feet are underrated and he can get in range and you know, make a taller, potentially rangier fighter like Jacobs actually feel that the closeness in that ring and make him work more than he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, he makes it work for him, John, doesn't he? Yeah. One thing, another thing we touched on, he throws the uppercut so well inside. He doesn't give up on the shot, John. So though Jacob will be taller, I expect him to be on the receiving end of a few uppercuts. Yeah, I think John needs to get on the chest of Jacobs, outwork him, be the busier out of the two, and take him to places that he doesn't want to be taken at this stage in his career. I do feel that Jacobs feels that he could probably get the job done and move on. I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping he is overlooking John Ryder, because I know how much this means to John. I know how much he wants this. Just listening to John talk there, this is his everything. He doesn't want to continue if he doesn't get the job done. It's been such a hard road, and look, we just want to see him win a world title.
I get the impression, a little bit like yourself, if he's going to win a world title, it's going to be in his kind of early to mid-30s, and it might even be the last time you see him in the ring, or if he won a world title, he might make one defence of it at home and then call it a day. He's not planning on being a champion for a long time. If he does get there, this might be the last couple of years that we see of him. But of course, winning this fight is absolutely imperative. There's no negotiation in that. He has to win.
Yeah, certainly, he does. I feel if Jacob was to go on win another world title, I feel that he'd probably bow out on that. Because what a tremendous career. Equally, if John was to win a world title, how many defences would John look to push on with? I think, similar to myself, it's just his ultimate goal. It's been a long, hard career for John already, so how much more would he want to fight for? So much on the line for both men, it really, really is.
Yeah. And then we'll have a week break in the UK before Lawrence Okoli is back in action defending his WBO World Cruiserweight title against Michał Cieslak, very good and very underrated Polish fighter at the O2 in London. Jordan Gill against Karim Guerfi, back in action as well. And then a couple of weeks after that in Nottingham, I don't think we've been before as a duo, have we? We haven't been to Nottingham, have we? No, we haven't. Mick Conlon and Lee Wood, after a brilliant year last year, dethroning Zhu Can at Fight Camp in what was a very sort of late notice main event replacement after the Ben Granados first one fell through. They stepped up, and Lee Wood was just absolutely brilliant. Who will come out victorious in Nottingham there? Anthony Fowler will then be back at middleweight, refreshed, he believes, ready to put on a career best performance. And there is Andre Rozier, and well, I'm not quite sure what happened for them to drift apart. There were some kind of disagreements that can happen between old friends, but they've quashed all of that, and they're back working together, and as he described just now, in his happy place this week. And well, if you've been with somebody for so long and you trust that person, that could be the difference on Saturday night, having this man back in his corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Having Tony, like I said before, so important to me. It really does help you. They understand you better than most. So when you're taken to them hard places, they're the sort of people you want in your corner, fighting your corner, giving you the advice that you need, and it's so important. So yeah, he's got a good team.
So here, Mark Tibbs is coming to join us. Not sure where he is. I think he's just round the corner. Come on over, Mark. We won't, mate. We won't. Always good to see you, Mark. How was your Christmas break, and how's the last few weeks been?
Last few weeks, well, I've been since Christmas. I've been really, really busy actually, and busy in the gym. You know, tweaking and trying to season fighters. There's a bunch I've got right now at the minute. Need a little bit of seasoning, but it's something that can't be rushed. It's something you've got to put the time in to get the
Just lift your mic up a tiny bit, Mark, just because it's quite loud in here. No, it's fine, don't worry.
Yeah. We've been singing your praises, as always. We were saying about Johnny Fisher, how quickly he's improved. It's been incredible. How much, I mean, it's hard to ask you the question, but how much do you think he's obviously listening to your advice an awful lot. Do you take a lot of credit from that?
Well, do you know what?
Or is he just a natural?
When someone like Johnny Fisher gives me what he gives me, I can't help but give him the best of me. So if that's apparent, then that's a big up for all of us as a team. So my job is to pick up on things that are not quite natural and look a bit awkward and he shouldn't do, and smooth them out. Because he was a little bit raw, and probably still is a little bit raw, but he can move, he's agile, and he's a great athlete.
So with a lot of your other fighters, has it been really stripping it back with Johnny and almost starting, because he is a raw novice, so it's getting the fundamentals right, the jabs, the 1-2, the footwork, there's a lot of basics.
He's in such a hurry to let his hands go, but if you're going to let your hands go, you've got to set it up first, and he was a little bit too eager. to just to let rip. And his strength and his eagerness and his energy could overawe people, but I want him to place shots and break people down in good fashion, hopefully.
But it's not easy when you have to pull against your instinct, especially when you've got 2,500 of your own people there in only your sort of third, fourth, fifth fights, to rein that instinct back in. But I guess that's part of your job in between rounds, isn't it?
He's a great listener. I mean, you just got to look at his educational background and that. So I know he's a good listener. Well, he is a good listener. I'll pick up on something, I'll leave it with him, and he irons it out, or he does his best to iron it out. You know what I mean? So no, I'm working.